Good evening, everyone. Village of Bellmont, September 10th, 2024, 6:30 p.m. Call to order. Roll call, please.
Barb here. Peggy here.
Dylan here.
Linda here.
Claudia clerk at 6:37.
Thank you. May we all stand for pledge of allegiance, please? You guys are behind us there. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on the agenda I have this evening is appointment of new trustees. Do we have any candidates this evening that would like to be nominated for the board? Okay, Linda, no, yes? Speak up, yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, at this time, this is Linda Isaac. She lives here in Bellmont and has been here for some time now, better than 1 year. Okay. She'd like to be nominated to become a board trustee. Do I have a nomination to accept? For nomination? Okay, a second. We'll go around the table. If we get a second. To accept the nomination. Okay. All right, we'll go with a vote. I will begin. Linda Isaac, trustee. Yes.
Barb, yes. Peggy, yes.
Dylan, yes.
At this time, the clerk will go ahead and swear in Linda Isaac and offer her the position at the table.
Okay. LINDAISAHC. Yes, ma'am. Okay, all right. Would you raise your hand? I, Linda Isaac, having been appointed to the office of trustee in the village of Bellmont, in the county of Wabash, aforesaid, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of trustee to the best of my ability. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. You can have a seat here, please.
Move that all over. I'm going to fill this out and then hand it back to you to sign.
At this time, I'd like to open the floor to Janet. She has come to discuss the audit. We had a review of it last month, and she is here to give us her interpretation, and then we will take a vote on it later.
Can we explain to Linda real quick what that is?
The audit?
No.
Oh, to Linda? Linda, every month we get a preview before the meeting, and then this is a bill of all the board's bills being paid this evening, and then an individual listing of every bill. We would ask you to review every bill, not just the list during the time of the meeting. You have this prior meeting. Linda, I'm sorry, I don't really have a good position for you to sit.
That's all right. No problem. This is your board report, and it just tells you in general everything that went on during the audit. On back there. There's a copy of the audit report.
If you could put them all right here, I'll be able to see them all.
You don't want them to have them when I go over?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know how detailed you were going to go.
I usually go over the report.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Copies are back there.
All right.
And here's the extra.
Do you have a pen, please?
I usually come in and go over the board report if you all want me to, and it's not really an interpretation, but just a review of the actual audited facts. And the first thing you're going to see here is this little board report, and this is real important because it tells you if we had any problems during the audit. We didn't have any difficulties. Everybody was cooperating as best they could. This was a very difficult audit because someone else started it, and everything wasn't there, and Linda and I know Lorraine and everybody else did a terrific job getting that information so we could conclude this. And it just tells you if there are any problems and how we value things, and the fact that we look at all the revenues, expenditures, the changes in fund balance, and we make sure. And so that's just an overall review of how we felt everything went, and we think it went fine. It could have gone better had you had your information in better order, but I know that was pretty difficult when you come in on the end of it. So if you turn in your book, you'll see that there's a table of contents, and that tells you where everything is in the report. And it looks pretty big for a small place like Bellmont, but unfortunately, and I try to tell everybody this when I come in, is that the AICPA and the Illinois CPA Society don't particularly care how small you are. You have to have everything done in your audit as required, which makes everything very cost prohibitive, and it's just very cumbersome. There are lots of movements afoot about getting rid of this for the villages. They cannot do that without changing the statute, because the Illinois statute says you will have a mandatory audit if you are any kind of a government in the state of Illinois. Now, there are other places where they're not going to require things like GATA. They've already done away with you having to go in and do all the GATA filings, and you have a simple way to do that. So that's very good. But the problem is the state comptroller cannot change this without a state vote. They have to change the law. So I think they could amend it, and I think there's a lot of pressure to do that. But when I talked to the AICPA, the guy there said they have a committee watching all the states that are requiring this for small governments, and Illinois is the worst one there because there are more governments in the state of Illinois than any other state in the union that are required to do an audit. So it's a very difficult situation. I don't see it changing soon, but I will do everything I can to keep you guys from having, more than you can stand. It's just that you're very small, and this is very expensive, and it's too bad. So that's what I know about that, and I know I talked to Linda before about what they were doing, and that's where they are. So if you look over at the next page, you'll see this is actually the independent auditor's report. This is the most important letter in the report, because it gives you our opinion. And we say in here that we have audited the accompanying financial statements of the governmental activities, the business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information for the Village of Bellmont. And as of 4/30/22, we are giving you an opinion that this is all presented fairly and that it's done correctly. Now, we are compiling this report because you don't have anybody here that could actually make this report for us. The state of Illinois requires that you have somebody on site that could actually do this, which is crazy. Even a big county can't do this. So every time we get into a thing about whether these are findings, but all we do is send a letter that say you're doing everything you can, and they accept it, and we go on. And this GATA change will help you not have to have that. So the letter just tells you everything we did, the responsibilities that we had, the responsibilities that you had, and what kind of supplemental information is included. All the supplemental information is about each fund. So when you get to the front of the book, you have the whole village, but the whole town, but you have to have all the little parts from the back part in order to see how that fits together. And so as you're looking through this, if you look over at the next letter you come to, this is the independent auditor's report on internal control. And most places that are big have a lot of internal control policies and things that they have in place. There's no way for you to do that. You have the best internal control that you can have under court, just is a compliance matter. Then if you turn over to page 7, that is management's discussion and analysis. And what that comes from is part of it comes from you, and Linda wrote part of what was in there, and the overview, and then part of it comes from all the financial statements. And if you look down at the analysis of net position, you'll see that it tells you what it was in 21 and what it was for this year, and you get comparisons all through here. And this is a great thing to read, because the statement itself does not give you comparisons from the prior year, but this disclosure does. And you can go to every part. If you turn to page 9, you'll see that it tells you what the capital assets were for 22 or 21 and whether or not there were additions. And it also tells you what the long-term debt was in both years. So it's very helpful to have this information if you want to look at the comparison. Now, if you read page 10, this is written by Linda, and she just talks about the challenges of the village and what you're facing and what all the villages are facing mainly, and very well written and gives a good view of what's going on. So then if you turn over to page 11, page 11 is the statement of net position, and that statement actually is your balance sheet that shows you all the things that you have and you own. The governmental funds are total assets are $325,621, and the business type activities, which is garbage, sewer, water, are $375,831. And if you look there, you have liabilities, and as you can see, your accounts payable under the business type activities, that's where you got your most bills, most debt. And so we have $386,000 worth of debt with assets of $375,000. So you have less how much liabilities equals net position. And as you can see, the net position of the government is $328,249, and net position of the business activities is negative $10,933. And that's usually the case because you got a lot more expenses running the business activities. If you look over on page 12, this is kind of a crazy report to read, but this is actually your income statement, the statement of activity. And when it's government, they ask you to do it kind of backwards. You know how you look at a statement that somebody made a profit or a loss, you usually see the income first. Well, on this one, you see the income down at the bottom. So if you look down there where it says general revenues, there's all the income of the village. And then when you look over at the left-hand side, you'll see the expenses. So the expenses are at the top and the revenues at the bottom. And what it tells you is how things look at the end of the year, the change in net position. So if you look, you'll see that the government activities produced $207,843, and the business type activities was a negative $245, so it's just about a break even, which means to me you're doing a really great job of trying to run things, because you're not out borrowing more money, you're not in the hole, but you're not making a profit either. And that is supported by the general fund, by the governmental funds, and so you're doing the best you can, and you are coming out at the end with $39,255 to the good. So that's a pretty good report for how things are going. Now, if you look over on page 13, that is actually the balance sheet, and it tells you the same thing I just went over with you. It just tells you in a separate way. So it tells you all the general fund and the special revenue funds, and it's telling you that equals total government funds. So when you saw government funds over there on the other page, this is the breakdown of how those are broken out on the balance sheet. And if you turn over to page 15, you'll see for the general, for the governmental funds, you'll see the general fund. And once again, it's going to break out the change in funds. See that the general fund ended up with $53,253 to the good. Special revenue funds lost $3,310, and the net total is that $49,943 we saw over there on the other page. So our special revenue funds for motor fuel tax, we spent everything we had for there too, and we just about broke even. So that tells you all the way around the board, everything you're doing for the community is breaking even, basically. If you go over to page 17, you'll see the business activity funds, and this is broken down by water, sewer, and garbage. So you can look at each one of those and see the most debt is the water fund, and
the second most debt is the sewer fund. And the money is pretty much managed as best it can be, with the water fund having the most funds and also the most debt. If you look over on the next page, at page 18, you'll see there which of the funds, this is just a breakdown of each one for the income statement, and you'll see down where it says change in net position, the water fund lost $22,118. The sewer fund gained $12,350, and garbage $920 in the hole, which means it just about broke even. So your $10,688 negative mostly comes from your water fund. Probably no big surprise. I don't see anybody look surprised. Okay. Now, if you look over on page 19, and this is one of my favorite summaries, this is the cash flow. Because this tells you what you have. First paragraph down where it says net cash provided by operations, you'll see that your operations provided $36,702 for water, it provided $15,383 for sewer, and it provided $23 for garbage. Now, you transferred in money from other funds to make, which is the general fund, the government fund, that make it work. And you, with that money, you purchased capital assets. If you look down there, you paid the principal on the bonds and you paid the interest on the bonds. And although those don't feel like capital assets, you are reducing that balance of that note all the time, so that's always helping you. And at the end of the period, you had no money in, you didn't do anything with investing except for the interest that you gained on investments, what you had in the bank that gained money. So if you look at the increase in cash, on a cash basis, the water fund gained $4,089, the sewer fund gained $13,768, and the garbage fund gained $708. Now, what does that mean? That means that this village is doing everything they can to keep things going and to do a good job and do a prudent job, because remember, where you have those losses on the other pages, those are bills that aren't paid yet, that are sitting there to be paid, but this is cash. This is what we took in, what we spent out, and we have a called enterprise fund. So it's very difficult to run. The proprietary funds are the worst because they're a lot to do. If you go over the notes of financial statements, tell you all the definitions and all the things that are meant in the financial statement, and they're pretty standard. And I'll kind of hit the spots that I think are really the most important. If you look over on page 26, this is one of my favorite paragraphs in a report, because this tells you how things are going with the bank, and that's most important. And so if you look where it says 1, 2, and 3, it describes your funding, where your banking is. And then it says the carrying amount of village's deposits with institutions was $201,730, and the bank balance was $196,762. Now, what that means is $201,730 is what your bank statements were at the end of the period on the statement. And then, of course, you had some outstanding checks, so that made a bank balance of $196,762 in all accounts. Now, you have to always look and say, is everything covered by credit risk, especially in the times we're living in? And you have nothing over $200,000. You have no credit risk whatsoever, and you don't have to have anything collateralized. If you get up over $200,000 in the bank will collateralize you for the rest, but you don't need that here. And so everything's safe, and your banks are balanced, and that's great. If you look over on page 30, you'll see that it gives you the property tax extensions, and it will tell you what the maximum rate and the normal rate is, and that the extension is $7,353 for general, for corporate. And it also tells you the taxes paid in 22 was $1,842,910. And that's a pretty good thing to know. And if you want to see more about the bonds, you turn over to page 32, it tells you how much money is owed for the bonds, and in each year coming up, what your bond payoffs will be and what your balance will be. So your annual payment for 22 is $23,685, for 23 it was $23,070, and for 24 it's $22,455. And when you get to 2025, you'll have $198,000 left on the bond. So they're doing their thing, and you'll always have a page in your report that tells you how much you're going to owe at the end of every year. So this is an ongoing schedule, and so it'll tell the whole thing, and you'll be able to look at this every year when you have your audit report. If you look over on page 33, you'll see that it restates all that again. So if you don't want to look at what year is what, you can just look at this year and say at the beginning of the year we had $243,000 worth of debt, and at the end of the year, after we paid $9,000 in principal, we had $234,000, and we're going to owe $12,000 in principal in 23, which has already been paid. And if you look down below, it tells you what the required principal and interest payments are for the next 5 years and thereafter. So you can always look at this and tell everything about the bonds and what you're going to owe and how much it is. If you look over on page 35, this is a good place to look if you want to see what your risk covers and what your insurance is covering, and we look at this every year to see if everything you have is meeting the statutory requirements, the governmental requirements, and your requirements. And we schedule all the insurance and make sure your risk management is appropriate, and it is. If you look over on page 36, this is also a really great page because it tells you what your transfers were between funds. So if you look, you'll see the general fund received $116,000, and then the interfund payables and receivables back and forth, we exchanged $132.41 between the funds. And we always balance that, so we know if you transferred something in, it had to come back, or it went out, had to come in. So if you look at the transfer between funds in the next group, it shows you the water fund had interfund expenses, the sewer fund, and also everything that got paid went in and out. So if you look, the general fund had revenues, and then they helped the expenses in the water and sewer, and it all balances out to $17,146. Then if you look, one of the things the state looks at to see if you have anything that you appropriated that you spent more money than you thought you were going to in your budget. And one of the things, pretty soon, so now we have to look at that again when you actually get your budget ready. The individual funds that have a deficit, and we know that fund is a sewer fund. Sewer fund runs the whole deal here. The prior period adjustments. We did make some prior period adjustments because your capital assets, less depreciation, were not added to your books. They weren't there. And so we don't know how that happened in the prior audits, but you have to have all your fixed assets accounted for, and then the depreciation that comes from them. So we went in and we fixed all that. It is not a material change, so it doesn't make you have a bad opinion or anything. It just cleaned it up. What I advise you to do on top of that is adopt a fixed asset policy. And what that policy says, you can adopt as a board the amount that you think is something you'd write off. And if it gets above that level, you'll capitalize it. So that means if you bought a computer for $500, you could write it off as expense in the year you bought it instead of having to put it on the depreciation schedule and hold it 5 years. So most not-for-profits and governmentals have the choice of adopting $2,500. Some bigger units will adopt $5,000. If that's, write it up for you and you guys can sign it, because it is required that you have that in your notes, that you know what your capitalization ceiling is. And used to be it wasn't that way, but now, you know, it's been adopted all over the country and everybody's doing it. So the next thing is subsequent events, and we know that we've looked at everything through July the 25th to 24, and we know you've had a lot of events for sure, but nothing of great importance that we have to put it on here. You didn't have a huge loss, you didn't have to shut down anything, so this just says that there were no significant subsequent events after the end of the year. And if you look now, here's the good old required statements at the back. And if you look at page 37, you'll see that this now breaks down everything you just looked at in the front, and it does it with your budget. So you can look to see if your budgeted amount equaled the actual. And when you look at, just for instance, local sources there, look at it, you are over budget, you know, by $123. You had money come in that you didn't expect. And if you look at local sources over under general, that was in special revenue. If you look in general, you had $13,000 more in local money than you expected. And you also had $36,546 more in state resources, so that's good. So you budgeted appropriately that you didn't. Now, if you look down in the general expenses, you spent less money than you budgeted, so you did great there too. You didn't spend more than what you put in your budget. And that's what that tells you. And it also goes back and it ties out all of the income and expense against the budget. If you read those other subsequent pages, 39 has another, it tells you about the enterprise funds and their budget, and it compares the budget to actual for the water, the sewer, the garbage. And so you get to look and see how did you do with that, and we know that the budget didn't work for the water fund, and we know why. So it's all on that page, and it shows what you budgeted. If you look over at page 40, this is required. This is your assessed valuations, and it's mandatory that we report to you 4 years. So you can go back and look at 18, 19, 20, and 21 and see how the assessed value changed. And you can also look to see how the taxes collected have gone up. So the next page is a pretty important page for everyone. It's page 41. It tells you how much money you could borrow without being outside the statutory limit. And the assessed valuation is $1,842,000. So your debt limitation, and this does not include your water and revenue, because remember, the bonds do not count against your debt levy. So you could borrow $52,984, and that's all by statute. And if you ever want to look that up, what that percentage is, there's the statute. I've started putting that in there because every once in a while somebody wants to go online and look at that. It hasn't changed in a long, long time. There are two findings. The ability to draft the financial statements, like I talked to you about, and there's nobody in the universe, unless they're a CPA, on to draft bone gap and hand it to me done. But that's the only person I know anywhere in our surrounding area that would be able to do that. You have two funds that are in excess of appropriations, so those have to be noted. And the state may come back and say, what are we doing about that? And we'll just tell them, we have a standard letter that we put in place, and Linda signs it, that says we're working on it as best we can with the personnel and the help that we have, because you have no other way to do it. And there were no findings in 21 because the prior auditor did not put those in there. They are mandatory. They are by statute, so they were missing. But we're not going to worry about that. That's already filed and it's gone, so we're just going to go on down the road and make sure that they're done correctly. Now, if any of you have any questions about the audit, or you want to go over anything in the audited report, all you have to do is let me know. I have all the work papers. You're all welcome to see them and look at them. We have a work paper for everything we tested and everything we did. Every bit of proof. And Linda knows it because I think she brought in every piece of paper she could find to help me. So your AFR was accepted, and I have talked to the state. They do know what the problems were, and they do know that we're getting them all done as quickly as we can. And I have some paperwork that I need you to sign, and I've got the copy of the AFR that's been accepted for you to put away in your record. Okay. And so we've got that to do. And
all right. Is that something that you'd like me to look at now, or can I have it with you and bring it to you
I can
tomorrow?
just give it to you, and you can look at it. And there's some extra copies of the board report for those other copies there. If you just go down this when you get time, you don't have to even do it tomorrow. Just when you get time, just go through this. It'll tell you every single thing to do.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody got any questions or anything I can? Yes?
What's the significance of the two funds that are above appropriations? What does that really mean?
Well, it just means that you had appropriated this much money and you spent more than you thought you would.
Okay, all right.
And the state wants to know, fundamentally, the state wants to know, why would you do that? You didn't estimate right. Well, how could you estimate something breaking down or leaving parts or, you know, there's a lot of reasons. And most water funds and sewer funds, that's what you got.
Yeah.
And you're doing the very best job you can figuring out what you're going to appropriate. And remember, you can't appropriate more money than you can appropriate revenue. And you can't raise your revenue more than 5%. So it's really hard to come out on all of those funds and come out smelling good. So, because we don't want a budget that we plan a deficit. And if we'd appropriated those two funds correctly, we'd have said, well, we're planning on losing money.
Oh, no way, so we was annexing and de-annexing all the time.
Yeah.
I was one of the GIS guys.
Yeah.
And did all the
We looked
mapping.
into it, and at this point, we're still getting the no one in it.
Can you do I don't know, can you do an eminent domain? I mean, 'cause are you guys eating the water and the sewer problems that's going out to their homes? Yes or no?
We are sewer, but we are making correction on that.
Okay.
So,
You know, I'm asking these questions, I'm trying to,
sure,
since
Ronnie, I understand.
since I was civil engineering and I went through all this with all these firms, I'm just asking, I wanna help you all.
Yeah,
I don't wanna see
appreciate
this, I don't wanna see this place die.
that. Okay.
I do not. Mother passed away in April. I'm there at Dad's for now until he decides to leave or.
Well, we still have a position open on the board.
Well, hon,
You ain't been
my
here long
home's in
enough,
Mount
have you?
Carmel.
That's right.
I'm not a permanent resident.
And you're outside in the Oh, well,
The
but I do appreciate your
baseball board,
interest.
except what I told you, you don't have to live in Bellmont, but,
Okay.
you know, things are so close. It's like Dad's home.
Yeah.
The line is right there at my dad's property line. That is Bellmont.
Yeah.
He's one house out.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Janet, I do want to thank you for coming this evening and sharing. I really appreciated the explanation that you gave, and in your book, it helped us understand a lot more
Good.
when we reviewed the draft. And also, I want to note that the great credit that you gave me for writing, I appreciate. So that was with a lot of A's and Claudia.
Okay, well, sorry, girls, didn't I?
You know, she helps me out a lot, and we review it, and
That's a great way to do it, so
yeah.
you're all on the same
so
page.
I definitely didn't want to sit here and just eat all that up by myself.
Well, sometimes all I get is a paragraph, so I was real thrilled with that.
Okay.
And we're working on your next audit, and we'll get it as soon as we can. We're just working on the back ones, so we get those all done.
I do want the public to realize that that audit, the audit that you presented this evening was actually started on time, but then went a whole year before we were able to realize he was not going to get it done, and he came to you. And that's why we are so far behind, but I do appreciate your efforts at this caught up, starting on the next one already, and I'm sure it won't be any
What
time
you
at all.
guys need is a big factory plopped right in the middle of here that has sales tax coming in.
Yeah, that would be nice
Yeah.
too.
Get a gas station with cheap gas.
My son came through town yesterday, and he goes, "Mom, your
Hello.
town needs a little grocery store or something."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Yeah, you got money to finance it?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know about that, but come on, bring your grocery store in."
There you
Yeah,
are.
that's what we need.
Yeah.
Miss Linda, I just want everybody to know down here, everything that's going on down at that ballpark, it's not costing the town a dime. That's all been done by donation and volunteer work. Nothing's gonna come out of y'all's pockets. I just want y'all to know that.
Thank you. Okay, Janet, I appreciate you coming this evening. You're
Okay.
welcome to stay the rest of the meeting.
I'll probably go home because my husband's this babysitter.
Okay.
He's got Parkinson's, so I have to get a sitter.
Oh, bless you.
Yeah, I have to get a sitter for him, and he's probably about ready to go home and have somebody tuck him in, so.
Okay, I do appreciate you coming.
No
and,
problem.
No problem.
I'll get this paperwork looked into, hopefully within the next couple of days, and get it back to you.
Okay, and like I said, if you have any questions, just let me know.
Okay, I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Nice to take care of all of you.
Careful going home.
I will.
I'm sorry to hear about that. That's Parkinson. My grandfather
Yeah,
died
it goes,
from it. It's
yeah.
hard. Yeah, it's hard.
Something, isn't
It's
it?
hard.
Yeah, my father-in-law had it, now he's got it, so it's just kind of in his family, but it's a
I'm
bad
not
deal.
really-
About $52,000, that would buy me a nice backhoe for a stand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I don't know what fund that was in, but I could use that.
Okay, Everyone has had a chance to review the, audit, and I'll bring that up again a little bit later, if you would like to take the time to review it. I don't have a copy of last year's with me right now that you can compare, but it actually shows you right there before and now. So, if you'd like to review it a little closer, please do. At this time, I would like to, welcome Bellmont Area Recreational League. Ted Kramer's gonna tell us a little bit what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to stand or not, but I will. Listen, I don't know if everyone has cruised down by the ballpark recently, but there's been a lot going down over there, a lot of work, a lot of volunteers have contributed, and it really is starting to take shape in no time. So, the infield's been drugged, all fencing, most of it is up.
It's all up now, Ted.
There is a little bit more that we want to do to increase the visibility of some of the foul lines and things in the outfield. But as far as the chain link fence, as Rodney indicated, it is all up. So
as of today, it's all up.
We are very pleased about that. And the dugouts, the old dugouts.
Because it blew the other ones away. And we're going to mimic that.
And I drove back around and looked at them, and they do look nice. So they're going to be nice. Organization-wise, I'm the treasurer, and I just want to know we are filling out all the paperwork and filing it. We've got our articles of incorporation filed with the Secretary of State, and as soon as that comes back, we're going to turn around and file it and get this organization to be a 501c3 organization where all donations are tax deductible, and we can actually go out and physically fundraise at that point. So, but it is sequential, and we have to do it in steps, and we are making that progression. So, anyone has any questions?
It's open. I think they're just going to transfer from one to the other.
That'd be great.
Speaking on that, I do want to point out that on our bills and financials, we did close the baseball account and transfer those funds to the baseball area, Bellmont area baseball league. Okay, so those funds came to us originally from the baseball department, and so now we've had the opportunity to get that money out.
In case you all want to know, the color of the dugout, it's going to be green, metal green. All the trim will be white. It's the Bellmont colors.
Now, I bought paint today, so I hope I got the right green.
Well, green.
And I'm going to give you my card, and you're just going to have to match it, because I done it.
There you go. There's nothing wrong with that.
You're the one to blame.
Now, the bleachers are going to be green
and now
and white,
it's on
right?
record. Linda bought the wrong green.
You're talking about green for the sitting, and then where the footboards are white, or the opposite?
Just the opposite, because I'm not
Okay.
going to put 30
You don't want
feet
30 feet? Yeah,
on white.
30 feet on the white.
That's right.
There you go. Wonderful.
Okay. Ted, I appreciate you coming this evening. You're welcome to stay the rest of the meeting, or if you'd like to go, that's fine too. I did have to put you second because I knew that this is what we needed to do.
This was important. I appreciate it.
Okay. All righty, thank
Listen,
you.
I'm going to get out here, y'all. You'll have a wonderful evening.
Oh, thank you, Ronnie. I appreciate it.
No problem. I'll be down there in the morning. You know what I'll be doing?
Yeah, I'm going.
Over here on the side of the building.
I just thought it was
Maybe
a
for
nice
right
signal.
I just put some decals on mine next time. They'll think you're here.
Okay, we're going to continue on. I can open the floor at this time for public comment. I do not see anyone, so we're going to move on. May I have a motion to approve minutes for the August 13th, 2024 meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, I have the approval, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve of bills and financials. We did have a draft prior to the meeting, and then we had a second one this evening that was the final for this month. Any questions on those financials? I did want to note that Jackson attorney, you're rather high, $500 to write that loan agreement. And And, I think we will continue to try to, find a local attorney to continue to help us.
What's the attorney's, name is Jackson
Kelly,
Kelly, okay.
I believe so. Other than that, I do not see anything, too outstanding on the bills and financials myself. May I have a motion to accept bills and financials?
I'll move to accept bills and financials.
A second? Thank you.
Good.
And then, roll call vote, please. Linda? Yes.
Barb, yes.
Peggy, yes.
Yes,
Thank you.
right, correct.
Linda, aye. Next we have our water report. If Chris would be so generous to tell us what's going on there.
Water usage has been down most of the month until the fire. We used an extra 18,000 gallons that night. Then the post office had a big leak, and that was an extra 2,000. Used 144,850 so far this month. Sewer ponds are down pretty low, which is causing some odor at that end of town when the wind blows. But until it rains, there's nothing we can do about that. And the lift station basket is fixed and put back into.
And the readings today?
No, I get the question.
Well, we usually just always share that.
Well 1 was 7,060 gallons, and well 4 was 5,820 gallons.
Need the chlorine readings.
At the tower was 1.6, at City Hall was 1.2. Tower was at 120 feet.
120.
Okay, if you have nothing else, Chris, we're gonna move on.
Oh, I got all kinds of stuff.
So don't be asking for things, I just.
Oh, that list is over here. Got the new swings put up at the park, and got questioned about where the funds came from to purchase the swings. So if anybody wants to talk to David King and let him know where the money came from for the swings, feel free.
Okay,
All the equipment out at the side of the building, I went through it. Most of it is wore out and probably not fixing. Need to decide what you want to do with it. The salt spreader is pretty much junk. The motor froze up, and the spreader itself is bent up. The small bush hog, the gearbox is locked up. The blade for the tractor is completely wore out. It goes where it wants when you're dragging it. The pipe teeter-totters can be scrapped, give money for the city, or something to get it cleaned up out there. The balance beam in the park, I put dirt around the metal feet because it's not in the ground anymore. It's not bolted down, and it's bent the wrong way, and it had sharp edges on it, so I covered them up, bent them down. So we either need to get rid of it or permanently fix it somehow. The one tractor blade out there is broken in half. I guess the weld's broke. It was a Rural King one. Need to decide whether they get that fixed or scrap it.
Do we have any blades that work for when we get a snowfall?
Probably not. I got one in the backyard that might work, but I have to get out there and get it.
But it
Not
belongs to you.
here.
It belongs to you.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the building. Do the buildings have a blade for the tractor?
The one will drag, but it moves about 12 inches one way or the other if you catch something. It's completely wore out, but so's the tractor. So.
We need to be making plans and
Yeah.
be getting that contracted out, snow removal
Okay.
as soon as possible. But now they can't get it, that's it.
Yeah, 'cause the snow blade that goes on this truck out here, I don't think that truck would push snow anymore.
That's the
Because
one
of the
ton truck.
transmission, or,
I took it out and drove it, but Rick said that third gear is out of it, and it has some other issues. I don't even know if the blade will raise up and down on it. I haven't had it hooked up or anything and tried it.
That is something that we'd like you to go ahead and look at as soon as you can, because that cold weather will come on us before we know it, so figure out where we're at on that. Tomorrow you and I will talk more in depth about the, equipment that you've mentioned at the park that's not, operable, because, we would rather have it removed than to have something else.
Place to live, the way things are going.
Well, we do appreciate your efforts, and I know you've done a lot to improve things already out there at the park and in the village.
Now can I go to my want list?
No.
No.
You do that tomorrow when you guys talk.
We do have you on a budget, you're right.
I just want a shop light for the back building.
Well, then
So
you told me that you
I
saw
put-
one.
I put one up out there in the other end,
Uh-huh.
but I didn't get to Roll King yesterday, so
Oh.
I didn't
I
look at it.
almost called today to say, should I stop in there, but I was with my husband and ran out of time, so I better just get him home, so.
Yeah, two more swings for the park, and then I gotta get the fuel lines and spark plug for the pole saw and maybe be able to get it running. So it's a short list.
Okay, thank you. On new business, we have the 2022 audit, and we want to take a vote to accept the audit this evening. Anyone have any questions on it or anything they would like to look more into before we take our vote on it?
2 years ago.
I know.
I've reviewed it, and I'm ready to vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, and things have improved since then. I do want to point out that, since that, period, we have increased our water rate. So hopefully we will be seeing that come back around for us. Okay, then I have a motion to accept the 2022 audit prepared by Watlers.
Motion to accept.
A second,
A second.
and then we have a roll call vote.
Going yes.
Peggy, yes.
Barb, yes.
Linda, yes.
Linda, yes.
Thank you. Next we have the tax levy, 2024 tax levy that was, presented to you all. Nope, I am Sivan. I have it here to go around the table. So while you guys are reviewing that, I'll move to the rest. We did have the old for comparison. And then once Potty, we got the new one typed up. It is here. Potty, would you like to read it?
If I had copies, I could.
I'll have to let them get you that, and then I just start running the pages here. The tax levy is prepared after the audit. We passed, not the audit, the budget. We passed the budget last month, and so this is where we come up with those numbers.
Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Bellmont, County of Wabash, State of Illinois, did on the 13th day of August 2024 pass the annual budget ordinance of the village for the fiscal year beginning on the first day of May 2024, the amount of which is ascertained to the aggregate sum of $206,822, which said appropriations ordinance was duly posted on the 13th day of August 2024. Now, therefore, an ordinance for the levy and assessment of taxes for the current fiscal year. Be it ordained by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Bellmont, Illinois, Section 1, that there be and is hereby levied upon all the taxable property within the corporate limits of the Village of Bellmont, Illinois, subject to taxation for the year AD 2024, the total sum of $10,750 for the following specific purposes mentioned in said appropriations ordinance and in the respective sum as follows, to wit: corporate purposes, general fund, amount appropriated $63,161, and the amount levied $10,750. the rest of this, the amounts, the items of appropriation are all within the city budget, and they're not, they don't have anything to do with this tax levy. Do you want to hear all that?
I can review it.
Okay. Section 2, the clerk of said village of Bellmont is hereby directed to file with the county clerk of Wabash County a duly certified copy of this tax levy ordinance. Section 3, this ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from and after its passage.
A little bit closer before I ask to, for a vote on that. On the agenda, we have fair housing ordinance and votes, but we in fact did not have to prepare a second fair house ordinance. That is in our ordinance book already. Do you remember what pages, Claudia? It's in there. It's okay.
22, 12, and 22, 13, I think.
I believe that's correct. And, that is to be in, so that we would be meeting the requirements for the applications of grants that we put in for, both the water and for the, parks grants that they're working on. So I won't have to, go on that one.
And it's also needed for another one too, another grant application.
It's, I guess it's probably needed from the any,
Yes.
application, but it's
It's
definitely.
the water tower thing.
Yes, that's right, water tower. Water tower painting. Bill, it's good to see you here tonight. Thank you.
What about the resignation?
Yeah, I will go ahead and read that. We did, have a, resignation letter from Leon Raver with regret and wish to resign my seat on the village board of Bellmont. We kind of caught on to that last meeting. It was very loud and uncomfortable for him, and I understand his reasoning, and I did not have it on the agenda to vote for an acceptance, so will I have to wait till next month to accept it, or do I just announce that we have the resignation? I thought I recalled that we do have to accept the resignation.
We'll accept it next month.
And so I don't have it on the agenda, so we'll have to wait. And my forgiveness, I was, rather concerned about the appointment of trustees and forgot about the, put on that agenda resignation. Thank you. And, so at this time, I will ask for a motion to, approve the annual tax levy 2024-04.
Motion approved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who's the second?
Barb.
At this time, we need to go into closed session to review closed session minutes. May I have a motion to go into closed session?
Motion to close session.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, at this time, we'll go into the other room. Claudia, stop the recording.
Looks like Chris trying to get up out of here.
I know. He's taller too.
I know, right?
Go ahead.
So Linda, what we do now is, we'll go into the back room and discuss closed session minutes, and it's, we can only go into closed session for particular reasons, and every 6 months we have to review closed session minutes. And so that's what we'll do.
We all go in?
That's what she did. Yeah.
He left it hanging out. Yeah.
Is that the end of your meeting, or do you still have
we,
more after that?
we will have very little afterward. We just have, one more thing to talk about, and then we'll be adjourning our meeting. And this will be fairly quick. Thank you. The hardest part is getting the computer in there and getting it back up.
see a reference coming in here at our meeting.
I'm gonna go
Which I
ahead.
don't know if they have or not.
Tell me when you're ready, Claudia.
Somebody does bring one in here, let's see.
Don't think it's allowed because the government does.
Yeah, no, and we just signed
Yeah.
up everywhere. And you can guess which ones that people are talking about.
I really don't know.
They put it on YouTube on the Bellmont channel. Just started the meeting agenda, I think.
And then Linda, I'll take that.
That's about a few hours. I've still got a few hours.
Yeah. Well, I guess that didn't want to get started on those. We got to be one right.
Make it, yeah.
All right, wait a minute.
Did y'all vote on getting my tractor?
No, we did not. But I can't discuss with you what happened in closed session.
I thought I said it before we started recording.
I think we're going now. Reconvene session.
Okay, September 10th, 2024, reconvene, regular Bellmont Village meeting at
7:44.
7:44, roll call please.
Dylan Woods are here.
Peggy Wallen here, Barb Bird here,
Linda Johnson here.
Linda Isaac here.
Claudia Dent Clerk.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like a motion to release closed session minutes or keep confidential.
I'll make a motion to keep the closed session minutes confidential.
Do I have a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is the OSLAD park grant process. Whoever would like to speak on that, Marty, or you want to say where we are on that?
I think Claudia would probably.
Okay, Claudia.
Okay, we've been working with, Rex Gower. If you two ladies wanna look at these two together.
Okay.
This has pictures on front and back, except for that one page.
Alrighty.
Yeah, it's dark. These are the latest drawings that I got, and they show a picture of the title of this is Bellmont Park Rehabilitation, and it shows you the area of the park which is included in the grant process. And the grant so far has been, I just got this today about 10 after 5, so I don't know the final numbers on it, but we were shooting for $600,000. So this second picture here shows you a walking path, which is all a hard path. Some of it is made out of stone and something or other, and part of it is concrete, and I can't tell you which is which right now. Then there's parking spaces here, parking spaces here. Some of these parking spaces are handicapped. You see the current shelter house, and at the end of it, where they are building handicapped restrooms. And from what I read, the plan is to take out the current restrooms and put in, 2 handicapped restrooms. I need to talk to Rex about that. You see the current basketball court, which they'll refurbish the new top on it. These are horseshoe pits that they'll redo and washers. Down here is supposed to be a proposed tennis court and pickleball, and they can be used for either one. This continues the path around the park. This area here might not look through here. This is a proposal of what the parking lot will be made out of and so forth. This one is the bathrooms. You see there's just 2 right there, and I want to ask about that. This one is the grills, and those are park grills, and these are handicapped accessible picnic tables. Here's the handicapped accessible equipment for the park, and you saw on that picture where that was located. This one's done. I don't know what that's about. I wanted to talk to you about how come this is stamped over and so forth. So basically, it's the same thing as the other one, but it includes a little bit more stuff. Oh, and the disc golf is over in here, and it's not an area that's real set in stone about what's there, but you put out the baskets, I call them, that you pitch your disc into, your frisbee-like thing, and they can be however you want them to be. This one is a picture of your court for something sticking toward the edge of the net post. This is the tennis and pickleball. This is how they would redo the basketball court. Here is the disc golf thing, and what does that say? Multi-use shed. Okay. Here's another picture. I don't know why there's so many of those. And that I think is the washers. Yeah. Here's another one of those. So.
And then we have the funding for the fence that's gonna go around the park?
The park itself will not be fenced.
To protect everything with it.
I do believe it was on sheet 4, they did have an estimated price, and it was just right under 600,000.
Glad you had.
$599.95.
And was that with the baseball area taken out?
Yes.
Design food.
Okay. We saved quite a bit there.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, I believe this bill is 100%. Application is due this Friday, and Barbie and Claudia have been working hard, gathering that information together. And, what's the letter you had to write, I forget what it was called. You and Barbie gonna review that tomorrow?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And there's a narrative and,
There.
a list of the different things that they're asking for, and, that's all part of the GATA.
Okay, but they're working hard on that, and they will get that accomplished, before this Friday to meet the deadline.
And the pictures that I just read to you, that will be part of the things that get submitted, which is gonna include the pricing and all that stuff. And I did not see anything in there about the, any work on the shelter house itself. And he said, what's your must-have on the shelter house? And I said, the floor.
And bathrooms.
Well, the bathrooms are in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
What about a water?
No, that's what I
Here's
choked
the
on.
question. If we wouldn't, put baseball in because we couldn't charge tournament fees, if they do work at the shelter house, can we still charge a fee to rent it?
There was never any
Money?
question about that.
Okay.
How are you gonna keep the hickory nuts off the tennis courts?
I think we'll be seeing some of that stuff coming down as they do their new stuff. I don't know exactly how
Running
long
out of
it's out.
trees.
You gotta have trees. I also want to mention too that I did receive, email today saying that on the big water grant application that's in process with, Grunion and Milo, I think that correct?
Milo and Grunlow.
Milo and Grunlow.
Milano and Grunlow.
There you go. Originally, we were shooting for, to replace the whole water system, and they were saying last year when we started the process, it was, up to 1.5 million, was the ECA grant, or the, ECEO grant, and now the new, guidelines have come out, and now it's 1 million times, and they have estimated our process to cost approximately 2 million, and they are recommending that we go ahead and continue the application and do, for the 1 million and do the north side of town, and then apply again to do the south side of town. I will look into more information on that and try to seek some counseling. I personally am on at this point with this application is to go ahead and split it and do the north and then later do the south. But I want to make sure I get some more input on that first. And as I go through that process, if anyone would like to take up any notions of your own that someone that could help you understand that more, and then we all kind of seek out what's best for us, then we can be more informed at the next meeting how we're going to continue. I do know that the the last application paperwork that I had to sign said that they were ready to go ahead and apply for the permit. If the grant does not go through, we do not owe the engineers anything. It's only if the grant goes through. They did assure us of that in the beginning. So.
Now that's with Kingsburg or Grayville.
No.
We're thinking that our emergency connect will probably be with rural water going out toward Route 15. As that time comes closer and we look at the expense of it, we'll know for sure, but that's what we were looking at. It's a shorter distance. Okay, any questions on that?
We need to have a discussion about the park grant.
I'm sorry.
We need to have a discussion that people think that this
Oh.
proposal is okay, and,
Yes, I'm sorry. I jumped
Okay.
down there, guys. Any questions on the grant application for the park so far and the paperwork you reviewed this evening?
motion to approve the plans as.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Claudia. I'm kind of worried about the deputy's time, and I'm moving right along. I'm sorry, sir. And we do appreciate you being here this evening, and I do know that upon coming into the building, even though I came in the back, there was a lot of noise going on, and so I appreciate you staying because there may be noise going out also. So, okay. So we're going to be moving forward with that grant application this weekend. Our next meeting date is the second Tuesday of the month, October 8th. Does anyone have any conflicts with that? 6:30 p.m.
It's just going to depend on my surgery, if they change it or not.
Okay.
That may go earlier that week, but it's scheduled for the 11th, so it may not.
Okay, all right.
Should be all right. I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then, meeting is set for October 8th, 6:30 p.m. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Who was the second? Barb.
It's time to go watch a fight on TV.
No. Didn't have one here tonight, so we're gonna go like that.
Right. At least that would be more entertaining.
I think somehow word got around that she was gonna be here. You're not very popular, I see.
Apparently not.
I'm glad. I'm so glad.
Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, really appreciate it. You've not had the pleasure of being in one of the meetings where people are shouting at each other and saying,
I think you are corrupt and you should resign. I'm opening the door to tell them, say, oh, the building.
did I leave my dog in there?
It is a perfect.
Welcome. Yeah, he is a perfect.
Hi, Peggy. Oh, me too, Peggy. Linda, I should introduce you to the board. My apologies.
Oh, that's okay.
I'll let them take the opportunity to do so now.
I'm Barb.
Hey, Barb. Nice to meet you,
Nice
Linda.
to meet you. I haven't
Nice
gotten to
on
meet
this
very
one,
many
you.
people.
Yeah.
Living in the last house.
Yeah. Sure.
You got the Audie house?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've got, and if anybody needs a shelter during a tornado, please, my basement is available.
Yeah. It's a big basement, yes.
And ignore this giant dog out there. It's very friendly.
Oh,
Really
yeah.
white dog.
Don't tell them that. They might think he's not gonna be protected. No, he is very friendly.
Oh, yeah, he likes me.
Paid me on the board.
Oh, no. I just give, I'm very bad at monthly checks.
So you're taking
My
care of
bank
it?
is in in Atlanta,
Okay.
and I only have that many checks left, so I give like $200 worth of
Okay, so I'm just teasing you, dear.
Oh, okay.
Linda, when there's more than 3 board members present
Uh-huh.
at any time, we do not talk about town business unless we are in an official meeting.
Okay.
And so you notice that when the meeting was adjourned and the computer went off, no more talking, everybody gets on their way, because, that is considered a forum, and you cannot talk business,
Right.
outside of the meeting, okay?
Okay. Mum's the word.
And you can always talk to one another any other time, then, you can talk, but just not 3 at one time.
Oh,
Okay.
so 2 can talk, but not.
Not
four.
3 is considered a quorum at a party of 7.
Oh.
Our board is a 7-member board, so, just keep that in mind, like it. But now, if you happen to be at the same swim party as the other board members, you can swim and have a good old time.
Where?
But you just cannot talk business.
How about a flat pool? If we're going for a city park, let's get fancy.
That ain't gonna
We
happen.
got big
I know.
potholes up there, that's all you get.
My
When it
nephew's
rains.
got a backhoe, so he could dig the.
Never know.
What's your phone number?
561-317-5853.
And Chris Roberts here is our city employee. He does work 40 hours a week, usually from 6:30 to 3.
6:30 to 3. Well, 3 days a week I work 8 hours. 2 days I work 7 hours, and Saturday and Sunday I work an hour.
Oh, does Baron ever bark at you if you come by?
Copy for you.
Not even want to read the meter.
Yeah?
But when first responders were out there the other day, I stood in there and patted him while they were taking me out.
Oh.
And then he-
I could not.
He wanted to come with
That's
you.
bad.
He wanted to come with you, and Steve shut the door and locked me in there with him.
Oh, no. Yes, I think I remember you. I had fallen the day before and was on the floor for 5 hours.
Oh, my.
And I just couldn't have the strength to get up or anything.
Tell me your phone number again.
561-317-5853. And hopefully that ramp will clean down soon.
And where do you live?
322 Church Street.
322 Church.
I'll slide out there?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Just put it in the box or just give it to
In the box.
in the box, okay.
What's 322 Church? Where is 322 Church?
It's the Alki House, the last house leaving town on our right.
You can work down
Oh,
for me, honey.
okay. All right, very good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Doesn't she have pretty legs?
Well, yes.
Well, I noticed when you went out of the meeting ahead of me back there, and
It's because she's so
pretty
tall.
Oh, thank you.
She's got that height on her.
Yeah. I don't think
You
you'd
have to get from the other side,
Oh,
and
okay.
just like normal. Alrighty, and then, for your paperwork this evening, you can take, a copy of the minutes we gave you, the bills and financials, the agenda,
That's good.
and a copy of your oath. This is the, interpretation of what one of these books was. Yep.
Okay.
Tell me your
Can I take one of these books?
Yes,
DJ.
ma'am.
DJ.
Yep.
Okay, this job, okay.
Thank you all for accepting me.
Yes,
Thank
please,
you.
and I hope that you can find, be a good resource for us to help make our decisions and move forward.
Right, I was still thinking about investigating the state law on
typicals.
Okay, because of the one, and yes, I appreciate that. Any information you can get and share would be, appreciated. Your agenda and